Hi everyone, my name's Barclay Loggie and welcome to another tutorial. We're looking at a bracelet today, but this bracelet is made up of individual components that we join together. So this is the bracelet and I've called it Bollywood Stars, and it sits really nicely around the wrist as well. So quite often when we're doing seed beading, our projects take a long time. This is quick and fun to make. So it's made up of the individual components. Here's one here, which would work equally well as an earring or joining them together to form a neckline piece. So they're quick to make and they're simple, and then you've just got to join them up. To have a quick look at the materials we need to make our Bollywood Stars bracelet. And instead of telling you all the colours, because the colourway I'm going to use today is slightly different to the colourway I used in the original bracelet, I will, however, list the colours of both bracelets in the description to this video. So if you want to make it in the same colours, then please refer to that description and you'll get all the colours I've used. But basically what you want is 2 different colours of SuperDuos, 2 different colours of size 8 seed beads, and 2 different colours of size 11 seed beads. Then you've got your thread. Now I always use Fireline and I tend to use the 6-pound one. I'm using the crystal, the white colour today, but depending on the beads you're using, you can use the black, or Wildfire comes in a variety of colours. So it's up to you, use your chosen thread. I've got a size 10 beading needle because that's what I always use. It's got the biggest eye and easiest for me to thread. I've got a toggle clasp. You may end up beading your own clasp. And I've got a thread zapper to end off any threads. Right, I'm ready to begin. I've got my beads set out. So I've got my 2 lots of SuperDuos here, which I've just labelled A and B. And then I've got an 8 and an 11. And another 8 and 11, which you can see I've labelled A and B as well. So we're ready to start our first component, and you'll need to thread on roughly 1/2 meter of thread onto your needle. And we're going to, before you start, it's a pretty good idea to just have a quick check of all your SuperDuos to make sure that one of the holes hasn't been clogged up by a coating, because there's nothing more frustrating when you get halfway through a design and you can't get your needle through the second hole. So we're going to start by picking up 6 of colour A. That's 5 and 6. And it doesn't matter which way you pick up a SuperDuo because they are the same, front and back and left and right. So it doesn't matter which hole you're going through, they're going to sit the correct way. Move them down towards the end of your thread, and we're going to tie the tail thread off to the working thread here, and we're going to start with a normal overhand knot, and then the second time we tie it, we're going to take the thread through the loop once and through the loop twice. And then just make sure that your knot is going to close where you started tying that knot. You don't want the thread to catch over beads. So pull it tight. You'll see it's formed a little star already. And we're going to pass the needle through the very next SuperDuo. And by doing this, we're pulling that knot that we've just tied into the bead, so that when you come to snip off that tail thread, you've got no chance of snipping through the knot. Right, we're going to change direction. So we were beading in a clockwise direction and we've passed the needle through. We're now going to go anti-clockwise up through the empty hole of the same SuperDuo our thread is exiting from. And we're starting round 2 and we're swapping to colour B. And this time we're going to pick up 2 of B and pass through the next empty hole of the SuperDuo. And you'll see that those previous 2 sit quite snugly between those 2 SuperDuos from the round 1. Pick up another 2B and pass through the next SuperDuo. And you're going to continue this the whole way round. So 2B through the next SuperDuo. Sorry, I'm just trying to keep threads out the way so that you can actually see what I'm doing. 2B through the next SuperDuo. And another 2. These SuperDuos are a lovely size as well. For seed beading, they bead up really quickly and you get a substantial design in a very limited time. And 2 more, and I'm going to pass through that last SuperDuo there. And I'm actually going to pass through the bottom hole of the next 2 gold SuperDuos there. And at this stage, I'm going to trim off that tail thread because it is starting to annoy me. So I've just got my thread zapper and I'm getting rid of that tail thread. So there we have the beginnings of our component. We're now going to change direction again and we're going to be beading in a clockwise direction. So you're going to pass the needle through that top empty hole of that first B colour SuperDuo. Now we picked up the B's in sets of 2, and to split up the pair we're going to use the contrasting 8 and 11 to the colour of the SuperDuos we've just used here. So these were colour B, we're going to use colour A in the next round, and between the 2 SuperDuos we're going to pick up 111, 18 and 111. And we're going to pass through the second of that pair. And you want the 8 to be sticking out, so it forms a little point. If it's not sticking out, you need to use your fingers and just pull on that size 8 seed bead so that the 11s sit right next to the SuperDuos and your 8 is a little elevated. We now need to bridge the gap to the next pair of B SuperDuos, and we're going to do that just with a size 8 from colour A. And you'll see our thread is now sitting between the next pair of SuperDuos. So we'd go 11, 8, 11 in colour A and through the next SuperDuo. Now my 8 isn't sticking out there like I'd like it to. So with your nails or your needle, just pull it out slightly so that the 11s sit alongside the SuperDuos. We're moving across to the next pair just with an 8. Split the pair with an 11, an 8 and 11. And move to the next pair with just an 8. And you're going to continue that the whole way round to complete this round. So I'll come back to you when I've joined all those empty holes of colour B SuperDuos together. I'm almost back to the beginning here, but I've still got to bridge the gap between my last pair and my first pair of B coloured SuperDuos, and I do that with 1 8 and I pass through the next SuperDuo. And I'm not going to actually end off this thread because I'm going to use it to join it to the next component. So I'm just going to pass through the 11 and the 8. And that is where I'm going to leave my thread. So it'll be exiting an 8 on the end. Now I'm just going to look at this while it's flat. So our first round was colour A SuperDuos. Our second round was colour B SuperDuos, and our third round was colour A in the 11s and 8s that just went around the outside there. So we're now ready to start component 2. So a new length of thread, another 1/2 meter of thread, and this time we're going to swap the colours. So where we started with A on this one, we're going to start with B on the next component. I've got my needle and thread ready to go, so I'm starting with B and I'm picking up 6, 2, 3, 4. And remember I said it doesn't matter which way you pick these up because they are the same any which way you look at them. 6, and just as we did with the previous component, you're going to move them down to the bottom of your thread and tie them off with a surgeon's knot. or any knot that you have learned through your beading that you have learned to be a secure knot. I'm going to pop that tail to the back. And remember, as I did before, I'm going to pass through, that very next SuperDuo to pull the knot into the bead to keep it secure. And then we're going to change direction. And for round 2, we're picking up 2 A's at a time. And just passing through the next empty hole of that SuperDuo that's in from round 1. I'm getting my thread around the camera, around the microphone, so I'm possibly not going quite as quickly as you could with these. So another 2. And my last 2. There was a bit of resistance in that one SuperDuo, so do as I say and not as I do. I obviously hadn't checked that gold SuperDuo and there was a bit that was stopping the needle going through. Right, passing through the last SuperDuo and then through those first 2 that I added in round 2. So the first 2 A's. And again, I'm going to just get rid of that tail thread. Now you're ready to change direction again, so passing through the empty hole of the same SuperDuo that your thread is exiting from at the moment. And now we're doing round 3. Round 3 in our first component was done with A colour beads, so round 3 in the second component is going to be done with B colour beads. So when I've got a pair together, I'm using an 11, an 8 and 11. And I pass through the next SuperDuo. And remember what we said about getting that 8 to stand proud. So just manipulate it with your fingers or your needle. To get to the next pair of SuperDuos, I'm just using an 8. Now I'm splitting a pair again, 11, 8, 11. Just make sure it's in the right place and going across to the next pair with an 8. So you're going to continue all the way around, adding your colour B 8s and 11s to your third round. I've just ended off my second component. Again, I've left the working thread there because I will use that to join on the third component when we come to joining up the bracelet. So my first 2 components are complete. And you can see all I've done is reversed the colorways. So I started A, B, A, and then in component number 2, I went B, A, B. And so you're going to continue until you have enough components to make a bracelet. Now this one measures 7 inches. There you go. And I have made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 components, alternating each time. So if you start with colour A, you start with colour B next. The third one will start with colour A, the fourth one with colour B, and so on and so forth. So if you get all the components made, obviously if you normally wear a bracelet that is 8 inches long, you will want to do an extra component. So you will have 8 components in total. So I'll come back to you when I've got all the components ready to join together. As you can see, I've got all 7 of my components made, alternating colours each way. And as I mentioned in the introduction, these make great components using them on their own. As earrings, you could attach this to a length of chain and have it as a dangly earring, or you could attach it straight to a shepherd's hook here and have something shorter. You can attach them so that they are that way joined together, or you could attach them so that they are joined point sides together this way. So it's up to you. It's really versatile. You can swap it up and change it up to what you prefer. So I've removed my SuperDuos because I'm going to be using my 8s to connect these together, and I'll use 11s to join on the clasp. So what you need to do is thread your needle onto your first component, onto that working thread that is left. Now I'm just going to move all of these out to the side a bit so that their threads don't get in the way of what I am doing and showing you, excepting I need number 2. So I'm going to line them up so that they are the same way. So you can see where my thread is exiting this 8. On component number 2, I need it to be in exactly the same place. So I'm going to be attaching them through the 8s at the top, the 8s in the middle, and the 8s at the bottom. And we're going to do that with a little bit of right angle weave. So to begin with, I'm exiting color A. I'm going to pick up B, and I'm going to go through the 8 on the corresponding side. So now you'll have to bear with me because I'm swapping hands and I'm not so good with my left hand, but it's just I want to keep the pieces in place so you can see exactly what I'm doing. So 1B, now I'm going to pick up an A, and I'm going to come back through the A that I started from. And when I pull this through, you'll see it forms a little set of 4 that connected together. So I've got 2 A's and 2 B's making my little row of 4. Now I'm afraid I have to pick it up. I'm going to pass through the B. I'm making my way to the 8s that are in the middle. And instead of picking up a B, I'll pop that down so you can see, I'm going to use this B that's in the middle here on component number 2 as my second bead. So through that middle one. So that's 2 beads so far. And in the middle here, I am going to stick with the B colors. So I'm going to pick up another B, but I'm coming through the A that's in the middle of component 1. And to complete my little 4, I need to go through the A where we started the second little bit of right angle weave of 4. So I'm going to pop that down again. So at the top here, we exited the A on the left. We picked up a B, that's number 2. We went through the B on component 2 and we picked up an A, so 4 beads in total. Then we came and we exited this B bead. We went straight through the B in the middle of component 2, picked up a B and went through the A on component 1, making up our 4. I now need to come through my beads till I'm exiting this B at the bottom. So back through the B on the side, just following the thread path in the same direction that I'd been beading previously, and through the B at the base. And when you pull your threads in, you'll see it's quite a neat finish. I'm now connecting this lower point here, and I'm going to go straight through the A on the left hand, the first component. And because I've got an A at the top here, I want to mirror it on the bottom. So I'm going to pick up an A, and I'm going to go through the B on component 2. And I just need to complete my 4 so that they join together, and that means going through the B from the round before. So I've got my final, I've got one set of 4, second set of 4 and third set of 4, but each time I'm borrowing from the round before. Now, because this is my first component, instead of ending off this thread, I'm going to pass through the beads and I'm going to bring my thread around to this left-hand side so that I can use it to add on one end of my clasp. So let's see if we can get through a few beads at a time, but it might not work. There we go. I'm just following through that top layer, through the 8s, the SuperDuos, the 11s and the 8s, until I get around to the other side. Because I've got enough thread to add on the clasp, so I might as well use it instead of adding in a new thread right at the end. So I'm nearly there. I just need to come through the 11 and the 8 that is on this bottom corner. Right, so there's my working thread, and this is the end of my work where I'm going to add on one end of my clasp. Now, I always say there are no rules about this, but I'm going to show you how I did it because you might want to do it the same way if you've not done it before. For the rounded part of the toggle, I am going to pick up 4 of my gold 11s. And I'm going to pass through the attachment loop of the toggle, and I'm going to come back through the first 11, and I'm going to turn it around because I cannot do it with my left hand. So back through the first 11 and pull your threads through. So if I hadn't turned it around, that's what it would be looking like now. And I'm going to pick up 3 more 11s to complete the other side. And I'm passing through the 8 on the top corner. So you'll see that's a really neat finish there. Now, ideally, you should pass through these beads again and go through all those beads that connect to the end of the clasp, because the clasp gets the most wear and tear. So you're just giving it a bit of extra strength by passing through all those beads again and coming back to where you ended here before you end off your thread. Now, I'm not going to waste time doing that with you now, but I'm also not going to end off my thread because I want to pass back through there again. So first 2 components are connected. It's time to connect component number 3. So just as we lined up the first 2, I'm going to line up number 3 so that I've got the thread exiting from the 8 on the corner and the thread exiting from the 8 on the corner, so I can see my points of connection through the next component. So once I've got my needle threaded on, I'll be back with you. I also took the opportunity to go back through the beads that attached my clasp before ending off my thread. I will show you how to end off thread because we've got a few components to add, but I'm ready to go. Now, just as we swapped colors each time we were making the components, so we're going to swap colors while we attach them. So if you look back to 1 and 2, we came out a color A, we picked up a color B. Between 2 and 3, we're coming out a color B, we're going to pick up a color A. And we're going to go through the A on component 3. And this time, instead of having color A at the top, we're going to have color B. So I'm going to pick up a B, and I'm going to come back through the B I started from, and that will make up my first little 4 in my join of right angle weave. I now need to come through this A on the base, ready to start my connecting of the 2 8s that are in the middle. So I'm exiting this 8 at the base of this 4. I'm going to be connecting these two 8s together, so I'm going to come straight through the A that's in the middle of component 3. And not get everything hooked up like I have there. And if we go back to this middle bit between components 1 and 2, we'd come out a B and we picked up another B, so this time we're going to pick up an A. We do everything the other way to what we did before. So it takes a little bit of thinking about, but once you've got the pattern in your head, it's easy to see. Right, I need to pass back through the A at the top, and I need to make my way down to the A that's at the base of my join, which is this one I'm going through now. And I'm ready to make my final join between the two 8s at the base. So I'm going to come straight through the B, and I've got a B sticking out at the top there, so I'm going to have a B at the base. Passing through the A on component 3 and back through that one. Now I don't need to use this leftover thread for anything, I just need to end it off. So I'm going to come through that 11, and I'm actually going to come through the SuperDuo as well. And I'm going to do a double half hitch knot between the SuperDuo and that next size 8 seed bead. So to do a double half hitch knot, you pass the needle under the thread that comes from the SuperDuo to the 8. You form a loop and you pass the needle back through the loop. That's a half hitch. And to make it a double, you do it a second time. So under the thread bridge, form a loop and pass the needle back through the loop. And just as we did when we were making our components and we tied our first knot in our first round, I'm going to pass through the next beads, pulling that knot. I've caught a couple of beads there, but pulling that knot into the 8 that's sitting there, so that now when I snip off my thread, I'm not going to be snipping off the knot. There we go. And remove my needle. And we're now ready to add component 4. So this is going to be like adding 1 to 2. So I'm going to bring in number 4 and again line them up so that you've got your threads exiting at the same point. And I'm coming out of an A, I'm going to pick up a B, go through the B, pick up an A and come back through the A. And exactly how I joined these two together is how 3 and 4 will be connected. And then 4 and 5 will be connected in the same way as 2 and 3 were connected. So you may need to rewind and just check what we did, but it's exactly the same as you're adding all your components together. If you've managed to keep your wits about you while you've joined all your components together, well done. I didn't make it easy. I could have made it a lot easier by using the same color around the outside of each component each time, but then you wouldn't get the same effect. So I like to set a bit of a challenge. As long as you've got at your joins an A and an A, a B and a B, an A and an A B and a B, an A, B, B, you should be absolutely fine. And if you lined them all up like I showed you to join them together, you should find that your thread is in exactly the right place at the end of your last component to add on the other part of your clasp. So this time I'm going to pick up 5, and it's 1 extra than I picked up to add this end of the clasp, but that's because this part of your toggle has to have a bit of leverage to get through the circular part of your toggle. So 5, through the attachment loop of the bar, and I'm going to come back down through 2 instead of through 1, and that just gives me the millimeter of extra leverage I need in order to get the bar through the hoop. But I did manage to get my thread caught there. So just get your thread off the bar, pull it through, and then again it's going to be just 3 more beads, 1, 2, 3, to pass down through the other side. And then, as I did with the loop of my toggle, where I reinforced the thread by going through the beads again, I would do the same this end, going back through the beads I've used to attach before ending off my thread with a double half hitch knot, just as I've done all the way along. So that is your Bollywood Stars bracelet. Hope you've enjoyed the tutorial. I hope you've found it fun, if a bit challenging at times, with all the swapping of colours. I tried to make it as easy to understand as I could. If you have any questions at all, as always, just pop them in the comments below and I'll answer them pretty quickly. I check them regularly, so I am quite quick to answer. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.